Oh no, rotation is locked. Hey, are you guys there? Okay. All right, I think... Okay. All right, we're there. Hi, guys. All right, we're there. Hi, guys. All right. Okay. All right, had to turn the volume off on that one, sorry. So they actually changed the settings on me, so apologize for that. They made it really difficult for me to do live streaming. Okay, so hi. I'm Denise, and I'm sorry for the vertical setting. They also would not let me turn it horizontal. It says it's locked to vertical setting, so you're gonna get me in a vertical, so sorry. All right, so if you don't know, I'm Denise, and I love basically spending my vacations, weekends, any free time I have, usually on my bicycle, riding wherever, who knows. Is there ever, can you guys hear me pretty good? Can somebody just throw it in the chat if they can, if they got it? Sweet. Okay. I don't want to, talk and y'all not hear me. So it's awesome. So thanks for coming on. So we're here to talk about the Ohio to Erie Trail. It's something that I had on my bucket list for a long time. I actually was supposed to do it before the pandemic. I was set to do it in, I think, 2018, 2019, and just schedules didn't align and I wasn't able to do it. I actually wanted it to be my first long distance trail. But somehow it didn't happen. So my first big bikepacking trip ended up being the Great Allegheny Passage and C&O Canal towpath. So I rode from Washington, D.C. to Pittsburgh and then followed it up with the Ohio to Erie Trail. The big thing about the Ohio to Erie Trail, just to give you a little bit of background on it, is that I decided to do it by myself. I decided, hey, it's close to me, and I know it's a good trail system for me to be able to ride it by myself. So I decided to go solo. I knew I wouldn't have to worry about things like bears, which I guess there are bears on the northern end of the canal, I heard, but I didn't see any, so we're good. And I just felt pretty safe. I feel safe in Ohio. It's great. It's a great state. So when I was planning, I was looking at when I was going to go. So normally I love to travel in September on my big bike trips. Like I love September. Kids are back in school. I can hang out. It's leisurely. I don't have to worry about fighting parents for hotel rooms or just general transit and travel and things. I didn't have to worry about it. So coming up to, I ended up picking June though, because September, my big bike trip was the Katy Trail. So you're actually going to see those videos coming up really soon. I've got 3 of them in the bag. I want to go ahead and get them all done and get them scheduled in, so you don't have to wait several months for videos, because unfortunately I work a lot, and having the mental fortitude to sit down and edit videos was not there. Yeah, so I picked June, and I thought June would be great because it would be, the weather would be mild. It's not going to be excessively hot yet. Yeah, that totally broke. It was really hot. June's just, it's pretty. You have wildflowers, you have, maybe a little bit of rain, maybe a little bit of sunshine, but it makes it really leisurely. So I picked June. And I set off, you probably don't know this, but I live in Louisville, Kentucky, so it's a short jaunt to get to Cincinnati. So went to Cincinnati, spent the night in Cincinnati, took Vegas Velo's bike transport up to Cleveland and started in Cleveland, and then rode back down to Cincinnati. Now, I took 8 days because this is my vacation. This is how I treat my bike trips. They're my vacation. I don't want to ever speed through, trails. I would rather spend time and enjoy them. So I did that. And this one actually, I set out to actually finish in 5 days. I was going to do a 5-day trip, and then the storms happened, and that just threw me all off. And then the excessive heat came, and I just was like, nope, I'm just going to take my time. I'll get there when I get there, because I actually had thought about getting my first century ride in once I got to the other side of Columbus, because I already know the Little Miami Trail really well. So I was like, well, I'll just fly, just hammer and do a century. That I didn't feel good. The heat, I wasn't having it. So I stretched it out, did 8 days, and I'm glad I did, because I love the Ohio to Erie Trail. So if this is your first exposure talking to me on here, talking, interacting, go ahead and start posting your questions too in the chat, because I'll be glad to answer them. But just a little more on it. Okay, so the Ohio to Erie Trail is unlike any of the other trail systems that I've been on, because a lot of the other trails were contiguous. They ran the same trail from one end to the next end. The CNO, the Gap, the Katy Trail. These are trails that are the same trail. Well, the Ohio to Erie is so beautiful because it's a network of trails. So you're actually on several different trails, and you'll see in my videos that I tried to remember the names of each trails, and I actually missed the Heart of the Ohio Trail because of the tree damage, which I'm going to go back and do the Heart of the Ohio Trail. I'm going to go back and do that whole section from Millersburg all the way down to Westerville. But I decided to go ahead and not do it. All right, so we've got some questions coming in. I want to make sure I get them. So the first question is, did I buy laminated maps or have the digital version on my phone? Okay, well, I did both because I was paranoid. So they say you pack your fears. Well, my fears are getting lost. So I'm going to show you this on camera so you can see it. So, and this is the 2021 guide. So the Ohio to Erie Trail.com or .org, yes, .org. Ohio to Erie Trail.org. Okay, they have everything done for you. They mapped out everything. So I ordered, which you do pay for them. So I ordered trail maps. So these, it's a little different than the Gap and the CNO or the Katy Trail where it's one map. They broke it out into each section. And what I love about these maps is, see, they give you it turn by, almost basically turn by turn, section by section. You are looking at where you're going and just, and it makes it really easy. And they have a really nice legend where you can see like how far the next town is and, and what's going on. I would highly recommend, if you want to do this trail, order those maps. Even if you're a digital person, that's cool. But this is a fail safe. If your phone, if for some odd reason things aren't working, I love to have paper maps. And I like to keep them as souvenirs. Now, I will tell you, these sat in the back of my pocket, so they got a little funky. So I won't be using them as souvenirs. I'll probably order some to actually have for like a souvenir. So yes, get the paper maps. Also on their website, they have the GPS files. So you can go get the Ride with GPS, the navigation files, and you can put them, if you have a Garmin or you want to put them on your phone, they have those available, and I use those as well. Now, the big mistake I did, which don't make this mistake, is I accidentally did it south to north, and then once I downloaded it on my Garmin, you have to switch the direction on your phone or on your desktop, and I didn't do that, and I couldn't switch it on my device, so it was really annoying, and I hated it. But so that's why on my video you hear this beeping noise, because it keeps telling me I'm going the wrong way. but I still had it and I could still follow it, and it was really easy to follow. So as far as maps go, do that. Get those and you will be set, because they even mark the detours. And on the site, they'll mark like where the detours are at, and they'll give you those. So they'll even give you the files for like that major construction that was around Kings Island that was marked. So it's pretty good. So yes, so I had the digital and regular. Okay, so next, let's see here. I've watched your solo and when you ride with others. What do you prefer? Ooh, that's a good call. Okay, so I love riding with my friends, and you're gonna see that on the Katy Trail videos when they come out very soon. But there's something about doing something by yourself and being on like your own schedule and your own everything. It also, the one, so I can't say that I like one over the other. I actually prefer a mix of both, and I will do a mix of both for the rest of my life because it's fun. But the one thing that riding solo does is it opens you up to meeting a lot more people, because you're more like, people will come up to you more when they see you solo rather than when you're with a group. That's just the nature of people. It just opens you up to meeting more people and experiencing more things, because you're not at somebody else's schedule or somebody else's wants, needs, etc. So I can't say that I like one versus the other. Oh, awesome. Oh my gosh, my favorite campfire hang from last year. Oh yeah, it was definitely Yellow Springs. Definitely. So if you don't know, so I regularly will bike tour on the Little Miami Trail, because, and so if you don't know, if you're from somewhere else and you don't know, the Little Miami Trail is the section that goes from Cincinnati up to Xenia. And if you go up a little further, there's this little kind of funky hippie town called Yellow Springs. And if you can work that into your plan on the Ohio to Erie Trail, you should, because Yellow Springs is this funky little town with really good restaurants. And they've got a couple breweries, and it's just kind of a fun little place. So I do love Yellow Springs, and I actually got to meet up with a bunch of other cyclists up there when my friends and I went bikepacking up there. We stayed at John Bryan State Park and met a bunch of cyclists. Where are you all from? Springfield, that area. But yeah, so, and we ended up hanging out at a campfire all together. It was great, and I hope that they send me this year their list so I can join them again, because that was a blast. Okay. Okay. Oh, I saw you used a Garmin. Was it helpful? Well, my Garmin would have been more helpful had I learned how to use it before I got on the trail, because I actually bought the Garmin right before we left, so I did not. I did not know what I was doing with the Garmin. I've since learned a little bit more, so I'm still a novice when it comes to the Garmin, and I did not buy the fancy new one like mine. You just have to push the buttons on the sides. Like, I was cheap and didn't want to pay the extra for the fancy Garmin. Let's see here. Okay. Did I like Mount Vernon? Oh my gosh, I loved Mount Vernon, and I hope that when I go back, I can actually like go to that little brewery that was there, because I saw it. So when I went through Mount Vernon, most of the city did not have power except for downtown. And for some odd reason, our Comfort Inn, so I stayed at the Comfort Inn, and it had power. And somehow I ended up with a suite, by the way. I didn't show you guys that in the video, but somehow, I don't know, I ended up with a suite. It was awesome. But yes, I want to spend more time there. I loved the dog fountain, and if you missed the dog fountain, you're gonna be crazy, because the dog fountain was one of my favorite things. Like, because I just love that dog fountain. And I really want to go back. I want to go back to that whole area, because I think Millersburg was fun. And when I came into Westerville, it was so hot, y'all. It was like 108 degrees. So it was just that section was tough. The map guides have, yes, the map guides do have yeah. The mileage grids. Okay. Oh, hi Judy. Thanks for joining. So we had a distinguished person in the chat, by the way. The executive director of the Ohio to Erie Trail is on with us. So I appreciate you coming on a Sunday night. That's great. Got to tell you, I love what y'all are doing. You're doing amazing things. I don't know if y'all know this, but I decided to stay in hotels the whole time. I typically camp, but for this trip, because I was solo, I wanted the comfort of getting into a hotel and having a bed. So that's why I went ahead and stayed in hotels the whole time. I know there are plenty of camping spots along the Ohio to Erie, and I've heard it's getting better and better every year, more options each year. So I love it. Bob's asking me on a scale of 1 to 10, what did you think of the Katy Trail? You gotta wait and see the Katy Trail videos, man. No, I did love the Katy Trail. I loved it. It was completely different experience though. Like every trail I've done has a completely different experience. And because the Ohio to Erie is mostly paved, it opened it up to a much different trip. It's faster, you're in and out of towns quicker. You don't have as many. The one thing I love about the Ohio to Erie Trail, which the other trails do not have, is because you're in the Midwest and you're not climbing in and out of river valleys as much. So you're not having to climb up to a town and then back down to the river, up to a town and back down to the river. So going into town it was great on the Ohio to Erie Trail, because it was just, you pop into town, get what you need, pop out, or pop into town and stay the night, go visit restaurants and breweries, and because I love breweries, so you know how I roll. Oh yeah, cyclotherapy. Okay, yes, cyclotherapy in Springfield. They're the ones that have the bikepacking overnights in Ohio. So they do a lot of fun stuff. Okay, so one of the big questions I got on why I decided to do the Ohio to Erie Trail the way I did was all because of logistics. So I know a lot of people go northbound because they do talk about the prevailing winds, which I didn't have an issue with. I only had an issue with wind one day, and it happened to be like the hottest day and the day I started feeling sick. So it was not a good day. That poor trail that I was talking about, I felt bad because I was like, it was a great trail. I was just, that's the thing. I don't hide things from y'all on my videos. Like if I'm feeling like it on a trail, I'm gonna say I'm feeling it on a trail. So I was already not feeling well. So that when I went into what is that town that I went into? Anyways, it was on the it was a little college town. Oh, Cedarville. Sorry, my mind went blank. Yeah, when I went into Cedarville, I was like, oh man, I feel bad for how I rated that trail, because it was actually a great trail. I was just torn up by that point. And if you've done a lot of bikepacking, you eventually get to this point where sometimes it's not all roses when you're out there. And, and sometimes it's going to suck for a minute. And then other times it's going to be amazing. So you go for the amazing and then just ride through the suck. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Second on the camera mount. Yeah. Those cameras. So I don't know if you guys know this, but I use a GoPro and I clamp it to my handlebars, and then I usually turn it and it twists and makes a lot of noise, and it does get a little rumbly. That's my setup right now. I'm not sure how I'll change that just to, make it less rumbly. The reason why I do it that way is because I hate chest mounts. I think they're the worst thing. I don't want to see somebody's arms the entire video. Like I hate seeing people's arms in videos the entire time where it's just like somebody riding. So I would rather be able to see what's happening around me. So I put up with the noise just to do that. Okay, somebody said, did you like the Katy Trail or the OTET better? I got the same question on the OTET versus the Gap and CNO, and the Gap CNO versus the Katy Trail. I get that all the time of which thing's better. The one thing I'll tell you is experience them all because they're all so different from each other. Like Ohio to Erie, because it stitches all those great trails together, like it makes it perfect to experience things a little differently. And you're talking about very different terrain. So Ohio to Erie, you're in the countryside on rail trails. So you're just cruising through these, the nice thing is you do have green cover most of your trip. So so it's nice. You're in that nice little green tunnel, and then when there are some sections that are open, and it's usually typically farmland. The northern section is it's funny because the sections are all very different from each other. So when you start on the canal trail reminded me of the CNO. Like it was just CNO all the way. Like it was just canal. It was beautiful, and going through the national park, it was just really pretty. And it really like just picturesque kind of riding and experiencing that area with the water movement and the sounds and the just there was a lot of animals and it was just really nice. And then you get into the rail trail sections, and the rail trail sections, like I said, are green canopy, with fields and towns, and you're cruising through those. And then you have a small road section, and the road section wasn't bad. There was only one hill that I did walk my bike up. But that's just because I hate hills and I walked my bike up it. But it was a beautiful countryside. Like they picked good road routes, so I was never on a bad road unless I got turned around and went the wrong way. So that's just how they work. So I cannot compare the Katy Trail to the OTET because they're very different from each other. I mean, the OTET, I love the pavement. I love that it's paved for most of it. It's really fast and fun and just easygoing, And that trip I was hoteling it, so I was kind of, I got to have a shower every night and eat in restaurants, and I wasn't camping. And when I did the Katy Trail, we camped every night except for one. So it was just a different experience. And that trail is crushed stone with some sandy spots, so different trail. Okay. Oh yeah, he was talking about helmet mounts. Awesome. Um, okay, let's see here. Balancing Bike Life says, I'm planning on doing the OTET at the end of this month. Um, my biggest concern is the road section in Columbus. I noticed that you didn't take the normal OTET route that through there. Was there a reason? Okay, so I am an urban cyclist. Like I am an urban rider. I live in Louisville. I ride city streets all the time. So when I got off that trail into downtown, I basically turned on my Google and just looked at where the next trail section was, and then I took a bike lane through. So it's all about your comfort level of how you ride and where you want to ride. Now, I will say the Ohio to Erie Trail folks, they were very diligent in how they planned the route, and if you want the route that is probably the safest route, they're going to give you the safest exact route. They're going to give you the safest with probably the littlest traffic flow. I just picked a bike lane because I'm used to riding in bike lanes. And so I just grabbed a bike lane and went to the other side of downtown. So I did not go through some of the probably monument areas and things that were on the trail once you get to Columbus. Because I had heard that Columbus was a little trickier to get through. I'd heard that on, on the Facebook groups and on a couple of other places and a couple other videos that people were having trouble once they got to Columbus. So I just basically turned on my bike setting and found a bike lane and went. And it turned out good. But you definitely have to be an urban, a cyclist that is used to an urban setting and is used to just going. you know, just pedaling. So there wasn't really a reason. Just except for I'm just used to it. I did when we got to Cincinnati, which I did hear that they do not have that detour that I got turned around on anymore. So that's all open. So you guys aren't going to have to deal with that. So that makes it a lot easier for you because you know that detour is no longer available. The one thing I'll say is if you go to Ohio to Erie Trails .org, they have a section called alerts, and you can see like what you need to know if there's a closure. You know, they happened to close the trail right when we were stuck in it. So once we were out in the middle of the country, we had to move forward to get out. So that's how we ended up on all those windy, crazy roads trying to get to Mount Vernon, and ended up on those highways. You'll never do that on this trail. I promise you. That was just kind of a hard situation where we just had to make it for the best. And there were sections that if we hadn't taken those state highways, we would have had to go 10 miles out of our way to get to those little towns. So that's why we just decided to, you know, to all stay as a group and, you know, and get through. I don't know if any of the trike crew are on here, but they were amazing. I loved them. They really helped me through, and I was happy that I was willing to walk up to them and say, I'm sorry, I'm completely out of my element and I'm in a bad way. Can I ride with you? And they were like, sure, why not? You know? Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Okay. So while I'm waiting for another question, because y'all load some questions up, because that's pretty much what this is. I'll answer any question you have. Um, so let's see here. Little feedback on Vegas Velos. I loved Vegas Velos bike transport. They were amazing. You know, the fact that like when I did it, and y'all don't even know that because I didn't show a lot of that because I don't like sticking cameras in people's faces unless they are okay with it. But I was actually the only one being transported. They were actually doing a luggage transportation that day, and I was like, hey, you know, I'm okay with riding with luggage. I'm cool with that. Let's just, you know, so I rode in the front seat, and we had a luggage run with it, and it made it good. So it was from Cincinnati to it was what 3 4 hours up to Cleveland, but Cleveland was cool. Okay, somebody just asked about the direction, so I'll answer that too. So yes, I did go from Cleveland to Cincinnati, and it was just because of logistics. I live in Louisville, so the idea of just leaving my car in Cincinnati and going up to Cleveland, and then once I'm done with the trail, being able to just hop in my car and go home. I would rather do that on trails. And you'll notice I did that on the Gap in C&O too. We drove to Pittsburgh, took a train to DC, and then rode back to our cars. I like riding back to my car. And the reason why I always ride back to my car is the fact that I'm not on a train schedule. I'm not on a transit schedule. I'm not on somebody else's schedule. Like I get back to my car when I get back to my car. So if it happens to be, you know, if I'm off by a day or two on my itinerary, then I'm fine. And I don't really have an itinerary, so we can talk about that if you want. But yeah, so that's why I went Cleveland. And I don't think, I mean, besides the wind, like I don't think it really matters. Go whichever way you feel like. I know you know you'll get that, and you get a lot of pushback in groups when you say you go in the opposite direction. But I put on my YouTube, I put up a thing. Which direction would you rather go? And the majority wanted to go Cleveland to Cincinnati. So I think it's just you know do what you want to do. And I enjoyed going that direction. There wasn't, I mean, people can talk about elevation and incline and things. It was fine. Like Ohio is a great state to bike in. There's not as much incline as other states. So I just thought it was fine. What are you saying about that? And elevation, they said there is wind one way and elevation the other way. Yeah. Like I said, I only had the wind issue one day, and I think given that our like the weather just keeps changing on us, I don't know that. I mean, one day you might have it happen the other way, where wind stinks going the other direction. So for me, I plan things based on logistics, not necessarily how hard or easy it is to go one way versus the other, or how or just looking at those things. Like I pretty much just do it out of logistics. Whatever's going to be the easiest for me on the way home, and whatever is going to be the easiest for me to change my itinerary if I choose so. Because I'm going to do the New York, the Empire State Trail this year. And that trail, I'm not, that it could take us 10 days, might take us 12. I, I, I don't know. I don't like to plan. Oh, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna answer this one and then I'll go back to the hotels. How long have you been bikepacking? I've been bikepacking since 2007, end of 2017. I went on my first bikepacking trip, and it's very addicting. I just once I did it once, I was ready to just keep doing it, and now I pretty much, I have a corporate job. I work a lot, so spending my vacations on tour is what I like to do, and it's pretty much how I spend all of my week-long vacations or 2-week-long vacations. I'm out on a trail. I like the people that are going to be on this chat, because you can recognize that and be like, oh, that's not. But when I talk to strangers about it, like, wait, you want to ride your bike 350 miles in a week for vacation? Yes, that calms me down. I love it. Okay, now I'm gonna go back. Any favorite hotels or motels along the OTET? Well, I gotta tell you, I love the Millersburg Hotel. Now, I know it's old, and people are like, it doesn't have the amenities, there's no hot tub, but it has ghosts, kind of. I mean, they say it's haunted, but she says they're friendly ghosts, but I never had a ghost experience. But it's just so cool in there. It's just weird and old, and just fun, and you can kind of weave your way around and play. And it's right there in the downtown area, so it just makes it easy and fun for the most. And then I love the Hearthstone. That one. So in Cedarville, the Hearthstone Inn, they cater to cyclists more than probably any other hotel that I've ever seen. Like they let cyclists just come in. They let me wash my bike. And I always take my bike into my rooms anyway. But they were so sweet. And they had breakfast the next morning. Like it's such a cute little hotel. I love the Hearthstone Inn. It was awesome. So that's what I would say would be my two favorites. But I didn't stay in every place. So other people may have. If anybody has done the Ohio to Erie Trail and they have a different answer for favorite hotels along it, I did stay at a lot of chains. Because they. So how I ended up at chains is I did not want to pre-book. So if you're staying in B&Bs, that kind of thing, Airbnbs or B&Bs or little cottage inns and things, pre-booking is always the best option. But I wanted to be flexible, so that leaves me with a lot of the Hampton Inns, what did I stay at? Candlewood. I stayed at another Hampton Inn, and a couple Comfort Inns. So yeah, I mean, they're all fine, and I just like having a warm shower and a bed. so um, so it's good. Um, okay. Yeah, Jody brings this up, and I'll say I love it. Do you want crushed stone and hills first, or at the end, the southern half is paved and flatter? I loved coming into Cincinnati as my final, because once you hit, once I came out of Xenia it was like you were going downhill the whole way, like into Cincinnati. It was so breezy and flat, and all those little towns. So in the little Miami, there's just so many little towns to stop at. I mean, I would say on a majority of the different trails on the Ohio to Erie Trail, there are just a lot of towns to stop at, which makes it great. So if you're one that likes to go slow, if you want to stretch it out and do a 10-day, 12-day, 14-day trip, you can do that really easily on the OTET, because there's so many like fun little towns just to stop and spend a little time in. I'll go back and do the whole thing again. And next time I will go north, I will go northbound, and I'll let you know. So, and I'll record it again, and I won't have all the craziness I had this time. Because I was like, when I was putting these videos together, I was like, I hope I'm not discouraging anyone to do this, because my experience was very fluke. Like, I've never experienced that on anything else. I go on weekend trips all the time. I do these week-long trips, and I've never had that crazy of a time with all the wind damage and the closures. So if you don't know about that, you need to watch the video and see it, because there was some craziness happening. Okay. All right. Okay, which hotel did you park at? Okay, I'm going to tell you, there's two Holiday Inns in Covington. There is the Holiday Inn Express and then the regular Holiday Inn. I parked at the Holiday Inn, and they charge $7 a day, and it's a secure lot. You just park right where you parked to, spend the night. And I went back, my car was there. It was wonderful. Like, no break-ins, no anything. It was perfect. Now Jody might be able to say this, that if there are any other, because I know that when I did the Gap in the CNO, there was a certain garage that had 24-hour security right by the Amtrak that a lot of people that were doing the trail did. So it made it really easy. Now I know there are garages. I looked into them, but I was already staying at the Holiday Inn, and it made it easy. And literally the bridge that takes you right across to where the finish line is for the OTET was right there. Like all you do is cross a bridge, and the bridge wasn't even high to cross. So. Okay. Can you camp along the side of the trail, or only in designated spots? I believe it's designated spots only. Yeah, Jody answered that. That's good. Because I know some trails allow you to camp on the trail. I know I've heard that the Empire State Trail is a little different on their camping too. I didn't camp on the Ohio to Erie, so I really can't talk about camping. I did see a lot of camping available on, and what I loved is there was a couple little towns that even had like camping spots right on the trail, like in the town. I saw that a lot on the Katy Trail too. There's a lot of you stay right in the town in the parks. It was cool. Okay, let's see here. Bike life. Motels aren't really an option for me. Camping on the southern half seems really sparse. Were you scoping out any places while you were riding? Yeah, so if you have trouble finding spots, I would look at nearby state parks and some of the liveries. Yep, the canoe liveries too. Jody May, I think they have a camping list. They have a full camping list on the Ohio to Erie Trail .org. So you might be able to find those. For me, it was easier for me to stay in hotels. So I did it. It was, I just kind of treated myself. So, okay. So S. Jones, I'm riding from Cincinnati to Cleveland in October. Looking forward to fall leaves. I came in late, so I hope you didn't miss this question. Can you tell me your 3 top must-sees? Ooh, that's a good one. So my 3 must-sees oh man, I can't really pull it down to 3. I don't know. I mean, Cuyahoga Valley National Park is an absolute must. you got to go in and look around and play and see what you like there. That's the one regret. I wish I would have spent one more day and stayed really, and it's kind of hard to stay close because you got to climb out to go to the places to stay. But I really wish I would have stayed and spent like a half a day exploring Cuyahoga. But luckily that's accessible to me, so I can get up there and go play. So if I were coming from farther away, or coming from a different part of the country, I would definitely spend more time in Cuyahoga National Park. Let's see here. Number 2, oh gosh, must sees. Oh my goodness. Well, one I missed was the donkey that's on the trail, on the Heart of the Ohio Trail. I really was sad I didn't get to meet the donkey that I follow on Instagram. That would have been a must see. So that was a must see that I didn't get to see. um, I think that the must sees, because I look for the little moments on trails. I'm not one that check boxes like, okay, I've got to go to this site or this attraction, go see this and do this. I kind of let the trail bring me in and let it take me where it wants to take me. So in that, I may miss some of the big things that that people have marked as the big attraction, because I'm more looking for the little moments. It's just kind of how I roll. I think number 2 would be, I really liked Mount Vernon, and I love that dog statue. So I'm going to say that was definitely number 2. And then, I think one of the coolest things, and I think, trail users that use that all the time, they maybe take it for granted or they look at different things about Xenia. But I think the fact that you have so many trails just coming together in that one little space at the Xenia station, I just find that fascinating, and I loved it. And I love spending time in Xenia at the Xenia station, and then around in the little town. Like there's a little brewery, and so yeah, I would say that's number 2. A lot of people would say Loveland, because Loveland is like this little town near Cincinnati, and it's kind of a trail town that just has it all, and it gets busy down there. It's a busy trail section, but I loved it. I think the biggest things are the endpoints. Getting into the downtowns and into the lake or the river. It's just those are going to be your best moments. Is seeing that big body of water and knowing that either you did it or you're getting ready to start it. Like they're fun. Okay. All right. What else you got for me, guys? No, you know what? I did not climb the tower because, okay, so I wanted to climb the tower. Um, so in Mount Vernon, there's this big, once you get back on the trail so we were going, southbound. Once you get back on the trail, there's this big tower that you can climb. But it was already like 80, like almost 90 degrees, and it was only 8 a.m. So we were like, and we knew we were probably going to have as hard of a day because we knew we were going to do probably a lot of road riding because we knew that the trail was probably still bad, that they weren't going to be able to get to it because we found out the derecho, I think that's what they called it, a derecho. I mean, I'm not kidding when I say 85-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, it was a hurricane, that came through. And these trees aren't used to hurricanes. They're not built for it. So the fact that we lost so many trees, it was just, I mean, it was devastating to see that amount of tree damage, and that amount of damage in that area. So we knew it was going to be a long day. So we skipped the climb. But I'll go when I go back to redo that section, because I'm a purist. I gotta go back and do the section. I'll definitely climb it this time. Okay, what do we got here? Okay, was there plenty of water to be had along the trail? And how about bathrooms? So the great thing is because in the Ohio to Erie Trail, there are a lot of towns. So there are very few remote sections on the Ohio to Erie Trail. And the one thing I'll say is I think my phone worked the entire trip. Like I don't think I ever had cell service issue except for the days at the storm damage days. But that wasn't necessarily being out in the middle of nowhere, but that was, just circumstances. But so there are bathrooms all along it, and I think each county kind of looks at it a little differently. Because I know coming out of Columbus into like Cedarville, there weren't as many like places to pull off on that trail. That trail was a little more secluded, and there wasn't a lot of water on it. I was kind of glad I had filled up. but I do know that like if you look at a map, you're gonna see like places that you can go even if you have to go off trail. But for the most part, like especially you get on the Little Miami and there are bathrooms and water everywhere on that. On the canal, that was the same way. There were bathrooms everywhere. In the Holmes County area, there were bathrooms everywhere. So I think it just depends on which section. For the ladies in the group, men, you should hear this too. I'm just going to tell you because if you travel with women, you need to know. I carry a pee funnel, so it's a hard shell thing. So if I need to go to the bathroom off in a field, I can without taking down my bike shorts. I definitely recommend that for any woman. REI has a really good one if you need one. But I definitely like restrooms were never a problem for me. So. Okay. Oh, you're going. Okay. So we have Deb Burns is going. She's riding the trail the third week in May. Should we expect a lot of rain? So, I mean, generally I'm from Indiana. I've grown up in the Midwest. May's going to be kind of rainy. It may or may not be though. It's such a fluke thing of whether you get it. What you do is you plan for it. Like my advice is always plan for the contingencies, and then that way when you don't have to use them, you're like, I didn't have to use it. But I will tell you that the one thing that made my bike packing a lot easier is when I switched to a rain cape versus a poncho or a raincoat. It's just you don't have to put anything on your lower legs, and the cape has a little thing that goes around your thumb, and so you hold onto your handlebars with it. So it's like the cape is surrounding your bike almost. Like it keeps your legs free, and I'm not soggy when I'm done. Like it makes it a little easier. So I do love rain capes. They make them, I got mine on like Amazon, but I know there are companies that really specialize in them. If you ever want like one that's, a little tougher and, made to last, there are some really good ones, some really good Dutch ones, because they're kind of used to that. So, all right, what do we have? So what I'm saying is plan for rain, and then when you don't have rain, don't worry about it. The thing I'll tell you is if it's raining or not, make sure you're rinsing off, wiping off your chain and re-lubing every couple of days on trail. It just makes your life a whole lot easier, and you're gonna make your drivetrain a lot happier. So that's what I would say. Have you considered? So I did say if I go back and do it again, I will go northbound and I'll go up to Cleveland. And I'm excited to do that. I haven't decided when I'm going to do that. I have some big trips ahead of me that I've got to get done first before I redo any of the trips. There are so many trails that I have not gotten to. The list just keeps growing because people keep adding trails. But I definitely want to. New York is my next big one, so Empire State Trail will be the big one next year. And I'm not doing the whole 770. I'm doing 550 from Buffalo to New York City. So yeah, so I will go northbound. It may be 2025 before I can get to it, or 26 maybe, but I'll get there and I'll get back to it. I want to go to Europe after I after I get done with the New York Trail and a couple of other trails I want to do here in the States. I want to go do one of the Eurovelos. Okay. Always keep a packet of tissues there. Okay. Yeah. I can ask. Okay. Yeah. Hey, fellow Hoosier. Yay, Jim. I didn't know you were a Hoosier. Oh, you're in Goshen. Awesome. Goshen has some great riding up there. I love Goshen. Okay. Do you plan every night in advance and make reservations or improvise? Joseph, that's a very good question. So I like flexibility. I don't like, you know, I don't like having, so I know people that I love them. They bike tour very differently than I do, where they're sitting here in April and they're planning a September trip and they have every night down, right down to what they're going to eat. I don't do that. I don't like it. What I do is, what I do is I will, if I'm staying in a major metropolitan city, I will make sure I book that night. So when I stayed in Cincinnati before I started the trail, I booked that night. I also booked my Cleveland. So when I got up to Cleveland, I basically biked 16 miles and then stayed in Independence, which, hey, Jody, tell them to get a trail over to those hotels in Independence, because that was not fun. So, and there may have been a trail, I just didn't know how to get to it. But there are a bunch of hotels right there in Independence, so I stayed there overnight and then popped back on the trail. Now, once I did that, I walked into a hotel. I walked into hotels for the next 2 nights, where I just said, hey, do you have any rooms? And got a room. But I did, for some odd reason, when I was in Millersburg, because I knew the storms were coming, I was like, well, I'm not going to go all the way to Westerville. I was like, I know I'm going to go to Mount Vernon. I'm going to go ahead and book a room. So I went to one of the hotel sites so I could get a little discount, and I booked that Comfort Inn. Had I not done that, I would not have had a hotel that night, because you got to remember, they like the power outages were all over the place and it was hot. There was no, all the hotels were booking up. There was nothing left. I would have been staying with one of the trike kids on their floor. So I did end up booking that one. And once I kind of set my day, sometimes if I know like there's nothing available except for like this city, I'll be like, okay, well, if I know I'm going to stay there, I'm going to go ahead and book it. So I did that in Columbus, Westerville, when I stayed at the Aloft. Yeah, when I stayed at the Aloft, I went ahead and just booked it in advance. And all I do is just go on my phone and book it online so I can get a discount. So yeah, so I am not a planner. I don't enjoy planning, but for most of the trip, I did not plan where I was staying. I just stayed. I knew that Hearthstone would have rooms. I knew I'd be rolling into Hearthstone probably on a Wednesday or Thursday. And so on our way up, because Vegas Velos was doing luggage drops at the Hearthstone. That's how I got to see the Hearthstone before I rode into the Hearthstone. But they were, I asked the front desk, was like, do you have plenty of rooms? Like, because I wanted, so the thing about Cedarville and, what's that other little town you can go through that's off the trail? Anyways, they're college towns. So one thing you want to watch out for in the summer is that they're not having orientation or some major event that books those hotel rooms up. So I asked them if they would have rooms, and they said, yeah, we're going to have plenty. It's fine. So that's how I knew I could just roll in there and be fine. Now, I did have to book my room in Mason. I stayed at that Hampton Inn in Mason. And I booked that the same morning. Like, I woke up the morning, I was like, well, I don't think I'm going all the way in because I don't feel very good. And so I went ahead and just said, okay, well, I'll go into Mason, stay the night, and then that way I can finish the trail. So I'm not doing 85 miles in a day that I don't feel good. And that was a really good decision on my part. But I went ahead and booked that, and then there weren't many hotels left, and they were a little higher. I paid a little more for the Mason room than I would have liked to, but it was also a Friday night. So you have to look at the day that you're going to be in a certain town and what's going on. And if you're going into Mason, which has Kings Island, all that major attractions, you're going to pay a little more, and you're going to hope that you can get a spot. Yeah, so I'm not big on setting reservations ahead of time. I'll do it the same day, but that's about it. Okay, I am a road. Okay, S. Jones says, I was a road cyclist prior to 2018. Then I was in a near fatal car crash in 18. This is my first year back on the bike and my first time ever bike packing. Any advice for a new bike packer? Go with whatever you're comfortable with, is what I'll say. If there are times when you don't feel comfortable, there are times when I just get off my bike and walked. When I went on my first bike packing trip, I went, and that's one thing, if you're going to do this for the first time by yourself, find a place before you go on your trip to just ride to pack up and learn how to, so if you're going to camp, find a place you can ride to and camp and come back. That's why I love like hip camps, because you can usually find one near your house where you can roll from your house and go stay somewhere. Also, just finding a rail trail. I think the Ohio to Erie Trail, like especially the Little Miami Trail, it is like one of the best for if you're a new rider, because there's a lot of fail safes. There's a lot of towns. There's a lot of restrooms. There's a lot of bike shops. So if you get into trouble, and there are a lot of people around, it's a trail that's very active. There are a lot of riders, so you don't feel as secluded as you do on some other trails. So I'll say that just feel it out. Whatever feels comfortable for you, that's what you're going to do. I definitely, if you're new to bike packing and you're not used to carrying weight on your bike, you really need to practice. You should really practice that, because practicing will help you. And it's not so much riding, because you get used to weight on the bike. It's when you mount and dismount your bike that you usually fall off. So, especially when you're new at it, and also knowing that you're not going to stop as quickly, you're not going to maneuver as quickly. But luckily, the Ohio to Erie Trail does not have, so you're not climbing mountains, so you don't have to worry about as much on like the load bringing you any which way. Like, it's not going to do that. Are you on a pannier setup, or are you using bike bag, like seat post bag and front bag? Like the panniers or the bags in the back, the big ones. I'll wait for them to answer, but yeah, they're when you're new to anything, it's like anything. A lot of it is just getting going, and then that fear will subside. Like, it's just, if it's something you love, then you're going to take to it, and it's going to be natural. Now, the one thing I'll say is when I first started, I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I watched a lot of people doing this. I was just like addicted to seeing how people were doing it. And the one thing I loved is somebody said, you pack your fears. And especially your first trip, you pack your fears. So whatever you're more fearful of, whether it's safety, navigation, food, there's a certain something that we're all afraid of, whether, running out of food, or not having a communication device, or running out of battery, or, there's something, or, not having enough safety equipment, safety items, those, you'll pack those. So listen to that, and try to pack what you feel like you're going to need, and don't be afraid to be a little heavy on the weight side. If it makes you feel comfortable, bring it. You'll get used to the weight, is what I'm saying. And luckily, you're on a pannier setup. So panniers, they carry so much stuff. You'll be good as long as you do. And panniers, that's one thing I'll say. Just get used to it, and make sure you're balancing the two pannier. If you're doing a 2-pannier or 4-pannier setup, like the front and the back, just make sure you're balancing the sides so you don't have an unequal weight on either side, because that's going to throw your ride off big time. But yeah, just enjoy it. That's what I'd say about being a new rider. I mean, you're going to love, it when you finish, because you're gonna be like, wait, did I just do this? Like, I finished it. I mean, that's the one thing I love about how the Ohio to Erie Trail is set up, is you have a starting point and you have an end point. And that end point is something that you're trying to get to, and you're doing all this fun stuff in between. But that end point, getting to it, and actually like saying, look what I just did. I just did it. Like, that is wonderful. Like, that's what I love about riding trails versus bike packing in any other way. Okay, let's see here. Okay, somebody asked me about my speed. Well, I'm really slow. You know, well, I think they said somewhere that the average bike tourist or bike packer, well, not, it depends on what kind of setup you're on. You know, if you're on panniers, then you're probably going to go a lot slower. I mean, there were times when, because of the speed of the nice pavement, I mean, I was averaging, you know, under the speed limit on the trail, Jody, but I was averaging, you know, a pretty good clip. But for most parts of it, I was, you know, I was pretty slow. I mean, generally when I ride, I'm a 10 to 12 miles an hour person anyways. I like to look around. I like to just chill on my bike. I'm not a hammer. I can hammer, and I do that once in a while. But when I'm on bike tours, I'm in the, probably, I would say, anywhere from 8 to 12 miles an hour pace, you know. And you definitely, you know, if you're a quicker rider, you know, the Ohio to Erie Trail is probably the best for that, because on most of it, and even up on the line, up on the crushed limestone, or I'm not sure which kind of stone it is, but even up there on the crushed stone, it's really fast. It was a lot faster than like the C&O. It was much faster. Okay. Okay, somebody asked me, okay, Jim asked if I like a pannier setup or the bike, the seat post bag. So if you notice, like, so my setup on the Ohio to Erie Trail, because I was staying in hotels, I didn't need a lot. So I basically had all of my sleeping gear in and safety equipment back in that back seat post bag. Now, when I am camping, I'm on a pannier setup. So when I did the Katy Trail, I was on a pannier setup, and I do not. So I can't load on my front fork because it's just a fork that won't allow me to load on it. So I can only have the back pannier setup, and that's something that, like the Adventure Cycling Association, they would rather you have four. It's a balance thing, and it does. I've never used four, but I've heard they roll a lot better. They roll a lot faster. They're more comfortable. But I've always had just the two pannier setup in the back when I do a pannier setup. So which do I like better? Well, I love the Seapost bag because it's a lot lighter. So because the pannier setup, because the rack is heavy and pannier, you know, I have the big Ortliebs, and the Ortliebs are heavy. They add a lot of weight to your bike. So when you are in a bike packing setup where you're using a seat post bag, a front bag, and a middle bag, you are dropping a considerable amount of weight. So it's all about weight versus comfort. And on this trail, I loved having just the seat post bag. That worked. But when I have camping gear and stuff, oh, I'm all about the pannier setup, because you can just take so much more. You can take so much more stuff. Like, I like being able to have room, and if I want to buy a t-shirt somewhere, I can buy a t-shirt and put it in there. Whereas I think sometimes if you're in the traditional bike packing setup, you don't have room to get anything small. And I like to get little trinkets while I'm traveling. So I definitely like that. Okay, let's see here. Okay, going down. How much electronics did you bring with you? Okay, so I only had, so I have my Garmin, and then I have my cell phone, and then I had my GoPro, and then I have a battery charging power bank. And that's pretty much it. Like, everything else, everything plugs into there. And then I have the cords for each one of those that all plug into that power bank. And the power bank usually lasts me about 3 days. So I got a bigger one just so that I didn't have to worry about keep recharging it all the time. And I got it mainly for trails that don't have as many services. So the Ohio to Erie was very much a luxury thing because I was staying in hotels every night, plugging into the plugging into the attachment, so I didn't have anything to worry about. So it worked out nicely. So let's see here. So that's what I had as far as electronics. Okay, I just popped in. Have you covered personal safety for animals who are ill-willed people? I will say personal safety is very much a personal choice. I am one that I do believe the best people I've met on trail. I do have safety scenarios that I do and safety precautions that I take. I do carry pepper spray, and it's not the little itty bitty kind. But I will say is if you are going to carry any safety, make sure you know what you're doing with it, because I have pepper spray, but I also know the proper way to discharge the pepper spray, and I know where I'm carrying it, because if you're going to carry pepper spray, I hope that you have it in a position where you can actually access it, because it doesn't do you any good to have it stowed away in a bag somewhere if you need to use it. I will say, like, generally, like, I have protocols with certain people. If they give me the creeps, I just kind of randomly just do certain things just to kind of make sure they know that I know what they're doing. But I will say I've never felt wigged out on these trails. I mean, I've never had an incident. I've never come across somebody sketchy that was looking to do me harm. I would say if you're traveling on these trails, maybe in the late evening or night, I mean, I would be a little more on guard just because it's night. But for the most part, I think trails are very safe. I think, I told you I'm an urban cyclist, so when I get into urban cities, I actually feel safer than I do in the country. I know that's weird, but it's just reality for when you live in an urban environment and then you go to a country environment. You're like, I don't know, so that's what I'll say about safety. I mean, I have pepper spray, and it's for dogs or anything else that would come after me. But I hopefully would never have to discharge on like a dog or anything. And actually, I never had one single dog on the whole Ohio to Erie Trail. I'm used to that where I live. If you ride in the country, you're going to have dog encounters. Never had a single dog encounter on trail on that. So people are very good about their dogs around the trails. And other animals, I will say if you're a camper, people make fun of me because I'll like hang my bag somewhere or something, but you're in the Midwest, raccoons are destructive. And if you don't want them tearing into your seat post bags or your front bag, like don't leave anything in there, because they'll claw their little knacky hands in there and get stuff or claw at your tent. So I'm just a big fan of putting everything that smells into one bag, just like you would in bear country, and just throwing it somewhere like away. So oh, he said the raccoons do get real bad on the campsites on trail. So yeah, so if you are camping, it's just safety protocol for yourself, just to make sure your food items aren't with you and aren't in a place where they can do destructive damage. Because those bike bags are really expensive, and I'd hate for one to get demolished just because a raccoon's trying to get to your Cliff Bar. So. All right, let's see here. Okay. Shadylat says, going to attempt the Gap CNO late May. Any advice you wish you had beforehand? Oh, with the Gap and the CNO. Well, I wish I would have when I booked my Airbnb and a couple of other things, I wish I would have looked at a topo map to see how far I would have to walk my bike up a hill to get out of that canal bed. Because those my hardest days were trying to get out of that canal. So just knowing that every time you leave the canal, you're going to be climbing to leave it. I wish I would have known that and planned for that better. That and I wish that I would have planned a couple of extra days on that trail because there was so much. I mean, I did that one faster than I did the Ohio to Erie. We were done in six days. That's just, oh God. Oh, sorry. There's cats fighting outside of my house. I'm gonna go scare a cat away. You guys can watch me do it. But yeah, so I mean, I think you'll be fine. Like, yeah, I mean, have the guide's probably the biggest thing to have. The Gap, just like Ohio to Erie, they have a Gap and CNO has a great guidebook, that also has a single map. So the CNO is on one side, and the Gap is on the other side. So they make it pretty easy too. But so yeah, I'd say make sure you get the guidebook. But I'm trying to think of anything else there. I mean, there's so much to that trail. I did a live on that one too, so you should go look at that because it's got a lot of extra like detail on the Gap and the CNO because that's such a big trail. So all right, let's see here. But I wish you good luck because it's so much fun. You're gonna love it. Actually, you're gonna finish if you go from DC to Pittsburgh. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to just shuttle up to Cleveland and just start the OTET because I honestly wanted to do that when I did it, but I ended up, having to go back to work. So I wish I could have. If we can create a trail that goes from Pittsburgh up to Cleveland, I'll just do the whole thing. It would be great. I would just go from DC to Pittsburgh up to Cleveland and go down to Cincinnati all in one fell swoop. That would be fun. Okay, now let's see here. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm reading questions here. Oh, you're asking about my power bank. What? Okay, I have it is a basic brand that I got it on Amazon. Everything I have, so you never see me doing those like gear videos and I only do this because I honestly buy whatever's affordable to me and I if it works it works and if it doesn't I'll try to get something better. So gosh, what was the power bank? I don't even know what power bank I'm using. It's just one off of Amazon. It works. Let's see here. Oh, do what? Okay, so the Prairie Grass Trail in London on the OTET, you can get pizza delivered there. Man, if I were camping, I so would have done that. So I love London too. London was such a neat little spot because when you come in, okay, so if you come in from the south end, you come in and there's this cute little gateway that has London on it and there's this nice little park. Like, I just love that that they spend energy on being a trail town and they let you know that they are a trail town, and there are a lot of those little towns along there. South Charleston did the same thing, like Charleston didn't have a little entry sign like that, but there are all these little towns. They really let you know that they are a trail town and they want you to spend time in their communities, and you really should. Like, I'm big on like having first breakfast at my hotel and then having second breakfast somewhere else and then having because the way I travel for these is this is my vacation and I want to treat it that way. I usually end up doing things and stopping and seeing. Oh, you did hear the cats, didn't you? So I have a little street cat. Sorry, it was outside and the other cats keep picking on him and I don't know why, but it's annoying. So yeah. Oh, you can take a shower in London too, it says. Yay. Um, Oh, somebody's telling me a trail guide for the New York Trail. We have two books right now for New York, so we're flying through those. We'll see how those will go, and then I'll see if I need to add another book to it. I may have that one. I'm not sure. I haven't really dove into our planning of the New York Trail yet because that will be later on this year. A lot of my trips so far are going to be just weekend trips. I know so my hometown trail is the Cardinal Greenway up near Muncie, Indiana. They're celebrating their 30th anniversary, so I'm definitely going to get up there and do a trip. Okay, what other questions do y'all have for me? But back to the Ohio to Erie Trail. Oh, somebody's also seconding the Erie Canal guidebook. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it's the great thing is the Ohio to Erie Trail, starting the trail in an older fashion, like starting in Cleveland and working your way down. It was kind of like how when I started in DC and I worked my way, you start with the older stuff, like the canals are very old. They're just old and amazing. And you work your way through history and then you're going into the rail systems, and the rail trails. And I'm a huge fan of rail trails. I want to see every old rail trail or every old rail turned into a trail. We're finally getting one here in southern Indiana called the Monon South Freedom Trail. So it is like the Monon in Indianapolis, except for it's down here, but it's going to go like 64 miles, I believe. Oh gosh, best trail meal. Oh man. Let's see here. Well, I really love that ice cream that I had on the canal. Does that count as a meal? so, um, so I love that brewery I went to, and it was on trail in Mason. That was really neat. I love the coffee shop I went to in in Loveland. That was a really cute little coffee shop. Um, let's see here. I hit like four breweries like on this trail, which was awesome because I'm a brewery person. Yeah, Cartridge. Cartridge had a good pizza, which I'm a pizza aficionado, so that was good. Best trail brewery. Cartridge was pretty good. That was a good brewery. Yeah, I would say probably Cartridge was probably the one on the trail. There was one in Massillon, a little itty bitty brewery. It wasn't like near the trail, but I stayed in the hotel and it was a couple blocks away from the hotel, and it was really neat. I think I showed a little video of it, but it wasn't bad. So I think your best meals are going to be after you've had the hardest day in your life. Because when we went into Mount Vernon, we ended up at that swanky spot. Well, it turns out that they were one of the only places with power. So it was like crazy busy. I mean, it was like insane, but it was really good. Let's see here. Oh, you know what? So Loveland, I stopped for coffee that morning. So Loveland had something going on. They had an event where people were running and then they were going down into the water and getting in the water. By the way, the temperature finally dropped that morning. So it was actually a chilly morning, like I had on long sleeves. So I couldn't imagine getting into that water. So I didn't stay that long in Loveland. But I've been through Loveland several times. It's a great little town to stop in. Okay, let's see here. Okay, S. Jones is asking where to get the GPX files. So they are on. You can get them on Ohio to Erie Trail .org. They have the files on there. If you go on there, they've got the files for they're the ride. I think they have the ride with GPS. I mean, they have the files, but I used them for ride with GPS or not. Yeah, ride with GPS. Yeah, and they do publish the detours. Yes. So that's the great thing. You really, if you're going to do the Ohio to Erie Trail, you need to make sure you're going on that site and you're getting everything you need because I mean, they do the work for you. I mean, that's the organization is there so that you can do this trail without any hiccups. I did not download the the GPX files for that detour. That's how I ended up going the wrong way. And, and I love at the end, I was like, yeah, I must have went the wrong way because there's a lot of people on this section. So yeah, and that's how you kind of, so once in a while you get going the wrong way and you're just like, well, forget it, I'm gonna figure it out. And so that's what I did. Yeah, the Little Miami is so fun to kayak in. I love the Little Miami. Little Miami Trail is so much fun. Oh, Ed is asking me okay, so I did Amtrak. I don't want to confuse everybody. Amtrak is not available on the Ohio to Erie Trail, or from one end to the other. I don't believe, no, if it is, I did not know it was available. But when I did the Gap and the CNO, you can roll your bikes on the Amtrak, and I took my panniers off because I brought them with me to my luggage. Or to where I was sitting. But I believe you could leave them on. I mean, everything's attached, and it depends on who you get that's working in the luggage room. I mean, ours, we had to hang them. So the one thing, we took our bags off too because we were the ones that were actually hanging them on the hook, and that was going to be really heavy to try to hang with stuff on there. So they kind of guide you and tell you where to go. And for the most part, it's like vertical posts, and then they also have horizontal ones on the side for bikes that don't have that. But it's really, that's how the Capital Limited line was going from Pittsburgh to DC. But yeah, all right. Anybody got anything else before we wrap it up? Yeah, there is sadly not a Amtrak from Cleveland to I would love to see an Amtrak from Cleveland to Cincinnati. That would be nice. Oh, so they're talking about planning it, but it's not currently available. Well, if y'all live in Ohio, can you make sure that you try to get them to add the bike ticket to it to make sure that you have, that we can put bikes on the Amtrak then? That would be great. I would love that. Then I'll basically, when I go northbound, I'll just take the Amtrak back. That would be perfect. So, all right, well, I'm going to wrap this up, but yeah, I hope I was able to answer some of your questions on especially how I ended up doing the crazy one I did. Oh, we got one more question here. What do we got here? I like that you enjoy the ride rather than always pushing miles. Getting to designated campsites or motels seems a push though. Did you feel pushed? You know what? Actually, they were not bad. I mean, as far as the hotels go, I mean, if I wanted to, I mean, I could have stopped every 30 miles. I didn't. That second day I went 60 some miles, but I could have stopped. I just wanted to keep going. And then, so where you get kind of caught in a designated section is when you're in that section of between Massillon and like Westerville, you kind of have to stop in those other towns along the way because there's not any hotels or anything along those directions. But those were short distances. They were only like 40 some miles. So that's nice. I don't think you'll feel pressure, but I'm also one that I get up early. I don't press myself on time. I get up early and just make it happen. Also, it was too hot not to get out early. So if I would have probably pushed it to a different day, then I would, or a different time and left later. If I like to sleep in, I maybe won't be able to push as many miles. It also depends on the time of year because it gets darker earlier, say in September or October than it did in June. June, I had all evening to ride if I wanted to. But that's about it. All right. So I'm gonna make that my last question, and you know, we made this a long one, so sweet. But thanks for popping on, and if you have any other questions, I'll stay on for the chat just to answer anything in there for a few minutes. But other than that, you know, happy trails. I hope that you guys get out there and do this trail and enjoy it, because I loved it and can't wait to get that in again, because it's going to be amazing. And also, I'll be back on it this summer, because I always am on it somewhere. So it'll be a fun trip. You're welcome, man. I like sharing my story and being able to help other people enjoy what I do, because it's just so much fun. All right, I am going to take the live off if I can figure out how to turn it off.